My name is Samir van Alphen. I'm one of the reporters of Pensioen Pro, and I'm going to moderate the next two sessions. The first session is we have two guys from Sweden, and they are from Lumera. It's Peter Roos, he's International Business Development Executive, and Henrik Allert, Vice President Industry and Product Strategy. Well, if you read our newsletter a couple of weeks ago, there was already a little interview with Lumera. They have big plans for the Dutch pension market, more also from the technological point of view. And I was wondering, like, you're from Sweden. What was the moment that you thought, well, we have to go to the Netherlands now?
Yeah, okay. We have to go to the Netherlands. It's a lovely place, first of all, so yeah. No wonder we're here, right? But actually, we're kind of a dominant player in the Scandinavian market. And with Scandinavia, in this sense, I mean Norway and Sweden. So we really thought, looked out in Central Europe and saw, okay, which market are we looking at right now, and what should we do as our next step as a company? Yeah. And then you had a reform, and we see that as sort of a compelling event, since we've been working with DC solutions for a couple of years now.
Okay.
So that's why.
That's interesting. Well, go ahead with your presentation. If there are any questions, just raise your finger, and I will keep an eye on that.
Thank you.
Just go ahead.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, everyone. It's a truly great honor to have all you here. The elite, so to speak, of the Dutch pension industry. It's really exciting for us to be here. And to have you for ourselves for about 30 minutes or 25 or so. As we said, we are a Scandinavian policy environment company and has been working with defined contribution data systems since 2003 in Sweden and in Norway. Some in Denmark as well, but not that much really. And there's a lot of similarities between the DB to DC transition in Sweden and Norway and what you're going through right now. Parts of it started at the early 90s in Sweden. So it has been a really slow and long process of getting to the DC in the Swedish and Scandinavian market. And you're kind of doing it like in a really short period of time. And that's really, really exciting for us to try to and be a part of that journey as you're embarking on right now. No? Oh, okay. It's a delay, sorry. There you go. Okay. In short, yes, this is us. Please feel free to connect. Please feel free to ask questions or just book us for a cup of coffee, or if you want to make a proof of concept with us, we're all up for that as well, of course. So please feel free to connect. We have some titles there, but I'm really the pension market guy, you can call me, and Henrik is more like an insurtech visionary guy. So that's simpler to remember.
You can call me the product guy.
Yeah.
Right? Simple as that.
The DB to DC transition is really a trend all over Europe, as you're fully aware of. And the reasons for that are many. First of all, often the employers want to have something that's easier to put prognosis on what the cost will be next year. There's also been a lot of events in the financial markets that really pushing for the DC contract to be the future. So what really happened in Sweden, starting 20 years ago, is that the government said that, okay, we don't want the responsibility for longevity anymore in this market. So let's push it on to the employers. And the employers and the unions in Sweden thought, okay, yeah, we can take the responsibility for that. They discussed it and made schemes to address this issue in the Swedish market. And they've been doing that ever since. But the trend goes further than that. After that, the employers and the unions said, okay, now we don't want the responsibilities for this anymore, so we push it onwards to the individual. And we see we are on different steps on this journey. I'm not saying this is going to happen everywhere. I'm just saying the trend looks like that. So, and here right now, and in Sweden definitely, we are like, the employers want to push it out to the individual more. And it's really, really exciting journey as well. Let me explain a bit about how it went in the Scandinavian market. So, in Norway, since 2004, the DB transition has been going on. Back then, in 2004, there was 95% in DB solutions in the pension funds in Norway. Up until 2020, there was the opposite. It was 5% left, and the rest was in DC solutions. In Norway, they skipped straight to personal responsibility. More or less to say, okay, employers, here how much you're going to pay in Pillar 2 retirement premiums. And they give it to the individual, who more or less have a backpack that they call Pensioen. And the backpack, it's my responsibility, and I decide who manages this capital and who doesn't. So the trend is really clear. In Sweden, it was a little more complex than that. Back in the 90s, we, so to speak, opened a little window for the individual to make their own choices. Everything was DB for the white collar and for the pension funds and insurance companies' products. We opened a little window. The ones with the higher salary could take out part of that and place it on their own and choose unit-linked funds, for example. And that little window was all it took for the change to come in Scandinavia. So for the last 15 years, the market has been driven about brokers and insurance companies that wanted to, add extra insurances and add extra savings for retirement. Until a couple of years ago, 8 years, it feels like 2 years ago, but this industry is kind of, a bit slow sometimes. But about 8 years ago, the employers and the unions said, okay, this is enough. Now you've been playing with this, with this retirement money way too long. Now we set a plan for this. We call it ITP1. And ITP1 plans is one way to report salary. All the salary is pensionable. They made a procurement, and the procurement ended with extremely low fees and extremely efficient administration of everything. So that's now the new, best of breed, so to speak. So the whole private market just follows that. And that has added price pressure, competition, and a lot of product development as well. It's a dynamic environment, but it's really competitive. And this is money we're talking about that you should live off for 1/3 of your life, hopefully. So it's good and bad, but it's never boring, I can tell you that. The trend, should mention the trend also, since I show a slide of it, right? You know all this, I presume, already. The demographic issue is one thing that pushes the DB to DC contract. We live longer. The risk of long life is the best risk we're working with, right? But it's higher, and that makes it more expensive for retirement, of course. Shrinking population compared to workforce, another reason for DB to DC transition. We have a decade with low interest rates, as you're fully aware of, which made it really hard to keep guarantees. And guarantees was really the backbone of the Swedish DC system after DB. Big pension funds in a CDC environment, I should put out, not the same as the pension funds that you have here, put out individual guarantees for individuals. So there are guarantees of 3 to 4 to 5% each year still going on in the Swedish market. Those funds are not having a blast when they're trying to take care of those money with the interest rates that we've seen the last couple of years, as you can imagine. And they were closed books. I will get back to this area again later on. And of course, the financial crisis, both the IT bubble and the Lehman Brothers crash in 2008, really hard to keep guarantees in that environment as well, as you're probably quite quite aware of. First of all, we couldn't come here without congratulating you, of course. You have the strongest Pillar 2 system in the world. I say the strongest because Denmark and Iceland, I think, are your main competitors here, but they're small countries, so never mind them. This is the most exciting thing, right? And why would you change something that would work? It seems strange, but of course, it's the same trend as we see in all other Europe. I understand that you do this. And when you do this, you do it in a reform, you do it hard, and between 2003 and 2027, you're doing this. That's tough. We will study the reform, of course, and there's 3 things that we really enjoy when we look at this, with experience, I should say, from the Scandinavian market. The first one is that you have age-neutral contributions. One thing that happened in Scandinavia, in the DB and after the DB as well, was we had age-dependent contributions. And slowly, there was disregard of 74 to 62 people from 54 to 62, because their premiums could be 2, sometimes 3 times higher than other premiums on the market. No, same salary, just the age dependence in the premium. And slowly, there was when you have 2 applying for a job, and one is a lot more expensive than the other, then you really have to value experience, right? So what happens is you get age discrimination, and that's really hard to get away with. And especially when we need to work longer, right? And all that experience that goes lost, where does it go? So it's really a problematic area. From what we can read of your reform, you have age-neutral premiums, and that's really nice to see. The other thing is you don't offer guarantees. I can't begin to tell you what guarantees have made for the pension system, but I will try to take a simple example. We had 8 insurance companies, pension funds, CDCs, you have money management and you have over-consolidation. And they have a consolidation goal. If it's over 124, they should give out returns to the participants, right? If you have guarantees in that system, of individual guarantees, they made it maybe 6-7 years. Then they were closed. But some didn't. Some instead used a more discretionary way of putting out returns. So I know that you're thinking about how to construct the buffers and the solidarity portfolios right now. Well, don't have too many rules. That's the experience from the Scandinavian market in a way. Because with the discretionary, they're still alive today and are extremely successful in Sweden. You can ride with the flow, have some dents, and then keep on track, keeping some of the buffers for some years and have it later on. But they also get criticized because they have a rule called the principle of contribution. Is that familiar? No. The principle of contribution is that I shouldn't get any return from other participants. So the premiums that are paid for me, that's the ones that I should get return on. So you will not have that principle, and the principle is not kept in the Scandinavian market. It's cheating, but there's no one to see, right? But these loose rules, when everyone have the participants' best for their eyes, right, and they have free rules, that's when it really works the best. So that's one little tip, or at least an experience from the Scandinavian market as well. No or limited runoff funds. Another great example from Scandinavia. It's not great at all. We had so, but in the plan for your reform, your plan is to take all the pension rights in DB and put them over to DC. Still IROP 2 and everything, but it should all go. So there will be no closed funds. In reality, I understand there will be closed funds, but at least according to plan, they're not. So, and that's a good thing as well. What we can see from the closed funds in both Norway and Sweden, it's, they're not taken care of the same way as the live funds, so to speak. And the administration costs per participants go up by definition. So there's really, try to stay away from closed books as much as you can. We have systems for closed books as well, so don't worry, we can still help. But, you know.
It's not necessarily good business.
It's not necessarily good business, no. Okay. There has been challenges going from DB to DC in the Scandinavian market as well. And I will try to just, you know, cruise on by some of these challenges. I'm not saying this, you have the same challenges. I'm just saying from the Scandinavian market, these are some of them that we really have and still have some of those. The first one is informed decisions. When we went from DB to DC, all of a sudden there's choices to be made from the participants. You know, there can be the little font choice, there can be a little of, you know, risk choice, especially with the flexible that you're looking at now. And it was really the same thing in Sweden. And what happens then? The media, right? The broker market, insurance companies, they want to rank different pension funds against each other, and the interests start to come. And that's a good thing, right? The interest from participants. I have choice to make, I need more information. Well, hey, I need informed decisions. I need to have information so I can make good decisions for my retirement. And this adds competition to the market. It really did in Sweden. Still today, the pension industry is advised, 80% of large companies have brokers or financial advisors advising all the participants and so forth. I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad, but it's not what you have today. So that's the interest is something that's going to be worked with. That affects the systems, of course, that we're going to talk about a little bit on later, but it's a big change. And the big change has gone on for about 20 years in the Scandinavian, Swedish market, I should say. A bit different than Norway there. Another thing that could be important here is, for example, live updates for portfolios, and knowledge about exactly how my portfolio, how my values look at every given time and moment. The first one that logged into the system were about 10% of the population. But you know which 10% that did, and who are really intrigued by this? It's the early adopters, the engineers, the one with the nitty-gritty questions. So they're the first ones to really get interested in this. And they drive change as well. So there will be change, at least from our experience. Oh, there we go. Imagine a world where employers just push export salary data in their salary system. The data from this month go on to the personal data record base and the tax authorities, and then they go on to the pension providers. We have not had that in the Scandinavian market, but it would be nice, right? Because the employers really want simplicity. They want control. They're not cheap. They don't want to pay less in premiums. They want control. They want easy to administrate and so forth. So here is a good example what the ITP did. They said the pensionable salary, and they made rules just to make sure that it was easy to administrate. Of course, in the change, there were compensations, there were a lot of things happening, but that's a one-time thing. Then it's easy to administrate ongoing. So one thing is to have standards from the salary system or build in export functions in salary system. It might sound like a small thing, but it's really not. It's affecting the whole pension environment in the Swedish and Norwegian market as we speak. Standard for billing and payments. In Scandinavia, all large employers have outsourced all the billing functionality. everything is outsourced. So they can focus on their core business, making cars, making bread, or whatever they're making, right? Except for the pension premiums. Because the building of the pensions differ a lot. It's retroactive premiums, it's other time slots for payment, and so forth. So I'm not really sure that they would like to deal with this. So what the trend is now, is to create dashboards, company dashboards, so to speak. So the employers can keep track of who's sick, who's not, who's going to get billed what, and what their which numbers the costs are going to get registered to. Sorry, that's my English, and so forth. There is even standards for this from a European perspective. One of them is PEPL. I'm sure there's more standards to this, but it's really important. And I believe when you're making a reform, to think a little bit extra. Are there more things we can do to simplify this? Yeah, okay. This one we can talk about for hours.
Maybe you shouldn't.
Nah, maybe I shouldn't.
Versus the time management.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. One simple aspect of this one. We've done a lot of migration in our days, both in Norway and Sweden. The most important thing is it will get wrong. The migration, it will get wrong, it will be wrong data sometimes. Make the system and the migration so that you can correct if it's wrong. So fact-based systems, make sure you have straight-through processing and can make changes in retro perspective in an automatic fashion. That's a really important lesson from that one. Yeah. Oh, this is a long one as well. Okay. I cramped in too much into this presentation, right?
And you already have me on minus time. Thanks, sir.
Yeah, okay. Okay. I think I skipped that one. Yeah. Okay. Obviously, we are here for a reason, and you need, maybe you don't need help, but we sure need in Sweden a new DC environment for policy administration system. And there are some things that are really important because there are big differences between DB and DC systems, right? But I'm very glad to leave that to Henrik. Sorry about the time.
That's okay.
I get excited over pensions.
Yeah, you should be. That's a passionate guy. So we have 1 or 2 minutes left before we have questions here, so let's fire away. Thank you, Peter. Working with the sales guy,
no
right?
problem. No problem.
No problem.
Just take your time.
So, in terms of a critical element, of course, of being able to successfully navigate in such a transformative shift that you're about to enter in the Netherlands, Dutch market, a core platform is, of course, a key enabler in this. And we're talking about the shift from DB to DC. And I don't want to be a party pooper here, but it's not going to end when the checkered flag arrives in 2027, 2028. You won't be able to sit down and just relax. This is going to be the starting point for a more dramatic, larger transformative change. Individual empowerment will drive a number of new things. So you need to be prepared for continuous change. And the product and the core platform that you choose needs to be prepared for continuous future, continuous challenges and continuous changes. This industry has some peculiarities. I mean, investing in a new core platform is a huge investment and strategic decision in any industry, but even more importantly in our industry, where we have a true lifelong commitment to our customers. So the decision you make needs to be really future-proven, and the solution that you choose needs to serve you not only today, tomorrow, should be there in 5 years, 10 years, and ideally much longer than that. And based upon our vast experience of working with DC companies in Sweden for the last decades, we identified a few key capabilities that we believe is of super interest for you to keep track on and be extra focused on when you choose your own system. And we will very swiftly just fall through those. and then leave for questions. Compliance, not negotiable in the business, of course. That's a necessity and baseline capability for you being able to even operate. Super important that they have a core system that provides reliable, real-time information that you can use for any kind of reporting. Very, very important. We have efficiency, cost efficiency. Peter mentioned that the competitive landscape will change dramatically. You will need to drive efficiency all through your operations. Part compliance, embed and absorb new legislation to be supported into your IT product is something that's going to be really important. Typically a major challenge for the companies in this industry. Using a standardized system for this is a smart way of handling that, making sure you get continuous update and you share investment with your peers in the industry. Operational efficiency, straight-through processing and automation is going to be super important as well, of course. Retroactivity is part in this. You're going to operate in a much more dynamic context. Salary changes, new participant joining, new participant leaving the contracts, etc. So you need to have the capability of following a very flexible timeline, handling backdated information as well as future information in the system in a smart way. Agility and flexibility, this will open up for new business models. It will take time perhaps, but it will eventually happen. So you need to have a future-proven platform that can help you to quickly develop new products and offerings, swiftly be able to take those to market in digital ways or physical ways or hybrid sales channels, distribution channels. And of course, we're operating in the digital world. Digital is impacting everything, so being able to deliver rich customer engagement is going to be super important in every kind of channels. So having a future-proven core system that could expose all the smartness of the system in a secure and open way, to be able to, you can meet with a participant, communicate with authorities, employers, all kinds of new actors in the evolving value chain is going to be very important. And we have all this. I don't have to spend time. This is sort of the smartness that we built into the platform of Lumera, and it has those capabilities. Full end-to-end process support, complete lifecycle support, customer support. It embeds business and operational support capabilities, and all this smartness is exposed via that data and analytics framework, but also in terms of digitalization. All smartness exposed, data and processes exposed via smart API so that you can interact with your participants and other relevant stakeholders in an ever-changing industry ecosystem.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Are there any questions from the audience? Just raise your hand here on the front. I think there will be a microphone over here, so just wait a little bit, please. Yeah, here you go.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I'm Philip Wits from Lifetree. I was wondering if you move from a Scandinavian country to a foreign country, the Netherlands, you always have issues with the country layer. How do you see that? Is this suitable for the Dutch landscape?
That's a very good question, and a question that always comes up. It's very relevant, but we have a really complex and composable and configurable platform, but there are always elements that has customer unique specifics. The tax layer is typically that kind of aspect. You also have the unique digital ecosystem that is unique from market to market. But again, with a solid core platform, we have flexible tax handling capabilities that could be tailored for the specific country, being a part of the country layer. And a lot of the integrations and connectors to the local ecosystem is something that we do ourselves or together with local partners. So that is one of the aspects of we're really working close with the Dutch market here. It's not Lumera isolated, but we're trying to find really good local know-how expertise that can assist with that kind of aspects as well. Very good question.
Okay, any other questions from the audience? Well, just have one question. What is basically the time schedule? Let's say tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
A customer in the Netherlands says, "Okay, I want to do business with you." Can you implement this whole system even before the transition to the next pension system takes place, or will it be just at that moment? Or
I mean, we're humble enough that we don't have all the information yet, and I don't think anyone in the rooms has all the information. It's still up for discussion, but we've looked at the base requirements, and we do believe that we have a very solid platform to be able to deliver on those requirements that are up for discussion as of now. Then, of course, in this industry, is not a very short implementation cycle, but typically you do a proof of concept to really validate that you have all the features and capabilities in place, and then you build from there.
Because if you compare it to the Swedish situation, like a pension fund or pension administrator, how long does it normally take to change from the one system to the other?
That's a good question, and that the boring answer, it depends.
Okay.
But the fastest implementation that we've done is typically greenfield operation. We can do that in 4 to 5 months. But then again, that's really targeted, limited scope. Broader transformation project that includes migration capabilities, where we take contracts and larger portfolio policies from old legacy system into the new one. I mean, that could extend 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
But there is very important that you have the composability in your core application so that you can deliver value swiftly. You don't want to wait 2 to 3 years until you realize business value, but you want to find features or processes or function where you can add value. And with the composable architecture, you can find product sets, or you can find functions or processes to start with to continuously deliver business value. That's a really important.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, you both.
Thank you.
May I have a big applause
Thank you.
for these two guys?